So now I'm going to talk to you about the coronavirus job retention scheme, and many people know this as the furlough scheme. It's quite easy to say actually, so let's call it the furlough scheme as we go through this particular video. So the furlough scheme is a scheme which has been made available by the government for employers where you are starting to lose work and you're drying up with your work and you need to effectively lay people off for a short period of time. The government has offered to all employers the opportunity to claim 80% of the employee's salary up to a maximum of £2,500. Now, I'm not going to go into loads and loads of detail about this because it's a very, very heavy scheme and it's got lots of complexities to it, but I'm going to just give you some top tips on it and top bits of advice. So furloughing, what does that mean? Well, it means effectively putting an employee on standby and the employee needs to be on the payroll as of the 28th of February. So anybody that's joined your business after the 28th of February, unfortunately, they're not eligible. Okay. The money is a grant and it's not a loan, so you can claim 80% of the employee's salary back and it's a grant, so don't worry about paying it back. So what staff costs are covered? It's going to pay 80% of the employee's salary up to a maximum of £2,500 plus the employer's national insurance contribution and the minimum pension contribution as well. So again, it's really positive and remember that this is a grant, not a loan. Employees can top up the furlough if they want to, up to 100% of the salary, but you're not obliged to. If you're putting people on furlough, yes, we all have a responsibility as a really good employer to try and make sure that we can keep people fully paid, and that as good employers, that's what we all want to do, and everybody's sat out there thinking, I'd love to be able to do that, but financially you just might not be able to afford it. So be realistic, and if you cannot afford to top up the salary, please don't get yourself into financial difficulty to do it. The scheme is that when you furlough somebody, you are paying 80% of their salary, and there will be things that the employee will have in terms of reduced outgoings, so they're maybe not travelling to work as much, they're not spending as much money on lunches, etc., etc. They might have more other outgoings, so you know, I'm not taking that away, but just have a think about whether you can actually afford to top up somebody's salary before you actually, you know, commit to that. Do you have to furlough all employees? Well, the answer is no. You can furlough some employees and not others, but just make sure that you apply a fair process in there. And how long can furlough be for? Well, it can be anything from as little as 3 weeks up to 3 months, and actually that may be extended depending on how we get through the COVID-19 situation. But you cannot furlough anybody for less than 3 weeks. It must be 3 weeks, and you can mix it up a little bit, so you might furlough some employees for a period of time and then bring them back and furlough other employees, so that you are changing it around a little bit. Or you can choose to keep one set of employees furloughed for one single period of time. Whichever works for you and whichever works for your business is absolutely fine. Employees who can't work due to school closures can be furloughed. So even if you've got work for them, they can be furloughed if they have no childcare. So you just need to take into account what people's personal situations are. It's really difficult at this minute in time. People are trying to homeschool and do support the family and do everything else. So just be a little bit practical, but do remember that people can be furloughed if they have no childcare due to school closures. People can also be furloughed if they're shielding themselves in line with public health guidelines. So if they're in isolation because another family member has symptoms, for instance, so you can furlough those employers as well. And furlough is definitely better than making people redundant. So at this minute in time, you should be really thinking twice about making people redundant. If you come out of COVID-19 and you need to look at restructuring your business, then take a look at it then. At the minute, what you should be doing is putting people through furlough, onto the furlough scheme and paying them 80% of the salary, because it doesn't hit you at all as a business. Okay. Is furloughing better than cutting staff hours? Well, yes. If a limited work hours are needed, then it may be better to just furlough some staff rather than to put all your staff on limited hours. I definitely recommend using the furlough scheme for that. And if staff left after the 28th of February for a redundancy or for a new job, they can be rehired and then be furloughed. So this, people are thinking this is a bit of a loophole, but it's actually not a loophole. It's absolutely fine to do that. If you've made people redundant or if you've let them go for whatever reason or they've resigned, etc., you can take them back and furlough them to help them get through this COVID-19 situation. So again, do have a think about that as well. It's all about being a reasonable employer and being practical and just thinking about working together and how we're all going to get through this situation together and come out the other end supportive of each other. But as it stands at this minute in time, you need to think about what are your plans for coming out of COVID-19. And we're going to do a little bit more about restructuring, etc. in one of the other videos. So I won't pick up it now, but do have a think about, what does your exit strategy coming out of COVID-19 look like? I hope that's been helpful for you. If you need our help, please get in touch. 01422 897 152.